Okay, if you dream big enough, anything can come true. Well, I tell you what, it doesn't happen like that on YouTube anymore. That's what I can tell you. It's the summertime curbside cleanup. It's an unusual time of the year where we see people's junk, that is sometimes treasure, thrown out on the side of the road up against Christmas decorations which adorn many homes. This time around, the video is done in a linear format. I do go back to some of the junk piles to see what's been picked up as other people's treasure. I've always said the junk piles talk to me. It gives us an indication where our society is going. It also shows us which products are flash in the pan and only last a few years, and some other products that can last a lifetime. In this video, I look at a line trimmer that's been thrown out. It looks brand spanking new, and I find out this line trimmer is a $600 item. Why was it thrown out? I also come across an incredible carpet shampooer. It looks barely used, and to my shock, horror and surprise, this is a $1,000 unit. Thrown out on the side of the road, but why? This time around, I find an absolute record number of Dyson vacuum cleaners. I was just amazed with what I found. They just seem to be coming out of the woodwork everywhere. I should point out I have no connection to the Dyson company. They do not talk to me, so I do talk about Dyson a lot in this video, but I get nothing for it. Along the way, I find this most amazing Lightning McQueen electric car. It's been customized and it shows lots of Lightning McQueen love. It was just amazing to look at. I also had some legal drama while I was making this video. Maybe it came at the right time because it did pull me up at a certain point. There's a lot to look at in this video. I'm not asking you to watch this video in one big hit, but I do ask you, if you are going to watch the video, give me some feedback on what I show you, because we all learn from what you know about things that I've looked at on the rubbish piles. Okay, let's do it. Okay, quite an interesting find in the rubbish pile here. It's two whippersnippers, weed whackers, whatever you want to call them. The green one here is a Ryobi, it's mains powered, but the other one here is DeWalt and it's battery powered. It's the DeWalt one I'm curious about, 54 volt brushless. Crikey Charlies, this thing looks like it's just out of the hardware shop. It looks barely used. This is the motor end of the DeWalt whippersnipper. The battery would slide into here. But underneath this is some details. Let's read this. There's the gory details. I'm not familiar with the DeWalt brand. I always thought they were fairly good. I can see a problem there. Made in China. I don't think this is very old. And what's going to tell me more about that is when I take a look at the other end, which is the part where the line works. Okay, let's take a look at this end here. Items like this, you know, they're well used. When this gets a lot of scuff marks, look at that there. It's been barely used. I noticed the line is all caught up here, so maybe that's telling of this device. And also the other place to look is up here. This line trimmer has had barely any use. Astonishing. That's the flip side of what I've just looked at. It's telling you a bit more about this device. I am just astonished at how little work this has done. You can see on this just how clean it is. It is like it's just come from the hardware store. I'll have a very quick look at the Ryobi. It's Ryobi 1200 watt, and maybe we'll go straight up to the other end. Again, this looks like it's done very little work. When I take a look here, again, it's saying to me not much work, especially when we take a look at this area here. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of mains powered versions of these, all battery powered. I really like ones which have got, unfortunately, petrol motors. That's what I've always had, and I always like ones which have a straight shaft. I would never buy one with a curved shaft. This may have been a fantastic machine. I think mains powered, the drag is, that's the drag. That's what I've learned by dragging home a mains powered device to play with. Okay, let's take a closer look there. Okay, blah 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 blah. I can see a date of 2017. I'm making this video in 2023. It may have been the greatest line trimmer in the world. If the owners speak to me, maybe they'll tell me. But it's quite astonishing to see two line trimmers here, which I feel have met a fairly early fate. Here's an interesting rubbish pile, and there's something here I rarely ever see, and that's why I'm making a point of it. And it's this here. It's Down under swag, there's a kangaroo picture there. And look at that, made in Australia. My God, that's a rarity. One part of me is curious whether that still exists, or is it now something that's made in frippin' wherever else, without saying the word China. We also notice here, this is obviously something where there's been a younger child in the house, and maybe that child's grown up, and there's things like this here. Cool. And there's another little thing inside here. Yeah, we've lost our charity shop many years ago, and unfortunately, since that's gone, things like that aren't being recycled in the way they should be. And if you look down here, you'll just see stacks more of things like that. Let's take a look at this here. It looks like a fire engine type thing. Okay, you've got to be careful looking at toys these days on this rubbish site. You're going to get flagged off the site in an instant. Quite a nice little toy in a sense. You know, if that was in a charity shop, it would have maybe had $1 on it back in the day. I could tell you a bit of a story about the way charity shops are bent these days. That is other charity shops, but probably best said in another video. You know, don't like what's going on in some of them charity shops. I love it when I see piles of rubbish and they're set up in almost like an artistic manner. And well, of course there's an office chair there, but whenever I see these flat screen TVs, it reminds me of a YouTuber I used to really love, and unfortunately he passed away. It was Aussie 50, and he used to muck around with these a lot. He used to sometimes come in and fix these items or show you where the faults were on them. But I don't know, every time I see one of those, I think of Aussie 50. He was a fantastic YouTuber. He lived down in Victoria in Australia, and there's this here as well, a little terrarium type thing. Now personally, I think something like this is going to get picked up. It's got a little bit of a broken glass bit there. That's not going to deter some people. And inside is that there. It looks like a spider's nest if you ask me. Although, you know, that's rather lovely, and in that setting like that, looks like a piece of art to me. Okay, another cute rubbish pile, and I can see a weed whacker whippersnipper item just there. It looks like a petrol powered one. Straight off I can see it's missing the plastic shroud. That'd be around the whacking area. Connects to that section there. I can see the brand is Victor, like my lawnmower, which I call an Icta. And this is the petrol end, the motor end. Okay, I sort of know where these go wrong. I've had one like this, which looked very, very identical. You got to be really careful what fuel you put into these. And also the little primer thing, if I can find that. Just looking at the fuel lines that go into the carburetor, that's the primer button. They're often, these go a bit funny, but I can see that there's issues here. There's actually fuel in this. Yeah, so one of the fuel lines is leaking, and that's probably what's wrong with the snipper. It only takes a little leak like that to cause havoc, and that's what happens when they get a little bit older. Let's try to find a date on this whacking job here. There's the important information there. I can see a year date of 2012 there. That's a long time back. I'm making this video in 2023. So yeah, this old girl has served the owner well. And I'm semi-giggling at the RIP serial number, considering where this has ended up. And it's an item that when I look around this, I can see it's had a fair bit of wear and tear. And that's what I like to see. I hate to see things that are thrown out that look like they've just come from the store. And I see that way too often. I'll put this back down on the ground. There's something on the ground here which is also quite curious. When I think it's been made. Okay, that's on the ground. Let's take a look at this item right here. Wow, I think it's something from a bygone era. Okay, this is a very interesting item. When I picked it up, it's nice and heavy. It's a fan heater, and we're looking at where the hot air would come out. When I take a look at the styling of this item here, well, to me it's screaming 1970s. It might be a bit later than that. I don't think it's any earlier than that. And it's made by a company called Vulcan. It's not a very big heater. I could put my adult hand on it like that, and it's got some buttons here. We've got off, of course. We've got full, medium, low, hair D, so that could be hair dryer, and I can see cool as well. When I see buttons that work like this, to me it screams like bygone era, like 70s. These feel quite clammy and sticky. So yeah, this is certainly no spring chicken. There's quite a curious sticker on the back. It's a bit of a trick to balance this here. Let's take a look at this here. Well, that read there indicates this heater can be used on its stand or in an upright position, and we'll get to where the air comes in on this device next. So yeah, I suppose if it's standing upright, it's, well, I don't know what it's drying. maybe in the upright position you were putting it underneath your clothesline, which would have been indoors because it's pissing down rain. This is where the air comes into this device here. This is underneath. I can see the roller fan inside there. It's not too messy here. Normally all the gunk of the house and everything gets caught up here. Of course the hot air comes out this way after going through the heater coil. Let's take a look where it's made. There we go, Vulcan Australia Limited, blah blah blah, made in Australia. Frippin' hell, you don't see that anymore. Every time I see made in Australia, man, it just reminds me how good it used to be. This item here has stood the test of time. We just buy Chinese shit these days. Unfortunately, I had to swear there because that's how I feel. Now, look at this here. This is the underneath where the air goes in. There's this here. This would have been for a filter. Okay, I think it's like about filter on the back here. And if I get it round to its upright position, if it was upright, it'd be like that. Maybe it's bringing back some memories. And the hot air's coming out here because hot air rises. God, I hope so. And of course, in the other position you can use this is like such. But it's such a frippin' classic item. It's compact. You know, it feels like quality. It doesn't feel like the rubbish that you buy these days, which is made in whoop whoop wherever, but not Australia. Man, it just makes me cry. Every time I see quality like this, it's just a reminder of how good it used to be. But we've drifted so far from that now. I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but that there is what we've got to go back to. But unfortunately, I feel the damage has been done. We can't go there anymore. Okay, this is a very interesting item on the rubbish piles, and it's something I don't often see. It's one of those carpet shampooers. I had a bit of a look over this. It's all here. It doesn't look like it's done much work, but that seems to be what goes on when I find these. Electrical cable still here, so it's only just been put out. It's got all of its bits and bobs as well, which is interesting because that talks to us about what it's done. So we can see a bit of fluff and lint on that. Let's take a look at that there. Okay, there's the information about what model this is. I might have to do a bit of Googling to work this one out. One thing that's sticking out to me, or two things, is household type and made in China. Very interesting find. There's some style of reservoir tank here. I don't know what goes on here. If I do this and I do this, I can make it relax onto me here. We can have a bit of a look and see what's going on top here. It's quite a complicated machine, but complicated as in features. I hope I'm saying it right there. Let me get it upright and we'll take a look at this area here. It's got a selection here for different types of cleaning you'll be doing. Okay, so you can have that there, or you can spin it around to a heavy blah blah power heater. So there's a heater in this device. There's this section here, which I haven't quite worked out what that is in there. It looks like a complex little thing. Lots of mechanical blah blah going on in there. Coming down here, and it looks like you can select it to be either on tool, I suppose that's a hose thing, or doing floor cleaning. Up and right there. And oh, okay, this comes off. Now I'm going to start wrecking it. I have been told by a neighbour this is in working order. It was just thrown out from people who were moving to, well, another part of the country. I'll just say it like that. But yeah, it's very interesting. When I saw the name here, I actually thought European, German, blah blah. Hey, it's just made in China. I'm just curious to take a look at this here because it looks quite elaborate. I'm just going to have to shuffle it around like this. All the tools and accessories are here. That's what's sort of amazing. Okay, and it's this piece here which I think looks incredibly elaborate. It looks like lots of things could go wrong with this. I dare say it does lots of special sucking and blah blah when it's connected to the hose here. And yeah, that's like a spot tool, I dare say, for cleaning up stuff. Yeah, if I could put this back together, that would be a miracle, wouldn't it? I don't know if I could work it out or not, and I'll put this back here as well because hopefully someone will pick this up and be able to yeah, I'm having trouble, aren't I? I got there in the end, and this is another attachment that's already on the hose here. Man, this machine wouldn't have been cheap. Okay, so there's one of your attachments that you would have gone around and just gone with that. Would have been a fancy machine. And again, I'll do the right thing and I'll put it back in place. We live in an extremely savage throwaway society. I mean, it makes you sort of cry when you see stuff like this. I'll tell you one thing I don't like about this machine now I'm doing this. It's frippin' heavy. It is an extremely heavy machine. If you were a slight person or something, it wouldn't be fun using this for too long. You know, I'll set it back on the grass here, and hopefully someone will see some value in this and put some purpose to it rather than it going to the rubbish piles. Okay, some random black style furniture. Looks like the sort of stuff that would collect dust. And thinking about collecting dust, or things that aren't very good at collecting dust, look at this here. Now, at first glance you think, oh, it's a Dyson. That's a frippin' Dyson. Well, no. It's got all the Dyson shapes going on here. This is just a damn generic clone trying to make out it looks like a Dyson. This here does absolutely nothing. Because on a Dyson, that's the thing that does all the magic of separating the fine dust out of the airstream. This is just absolute rubbish. And as we can see, it's on the rubbish pile. I'm going to take a look at wherever the little label thing is. Let's take a look at that there. Well, it's saying it's a Yokohama multi-cyclone vacuum cleaner. Aha, there's the problem, made in China. If I had a frippin' dollar for every time I've seen one of these nightmare Faco vacuum cleaners out in the rubbish pile, crockies, I'd be a frickin' millionaire. Another beautiful rubbish pile. Well, first off, I can see a coffee machine there, espresso style. Man, these things can be deadly expensive. It's a Breville brand. We're not going to look too much into that. That's something I often see. It's kitchen stuff like that on rubbish piles. There's more of this lattice style furniture. It's been a bit of a theme. I've been seeing lots of this style of furniture. I mean, I just call it dust collecting, but it's what's here that sort of caught my eye, and it might be a bit of a trip back in time in a technical way. Well, there's a bag here. It says Toshiba. I noticed inside the bag was all the goods and chattels that would go with a computer or something. Look at that. There's like some old drive system. Looks like the old floppy drive system thing. There's probably all worth billions of dollars if you threw it up on eBay. And then I see here a Toshiba Satellite Pro. Probably bringing back some grand old memories for people who are into this older style of computing. Man, this thing is frippin' heavy. I'm just, wow. It's got that little thing there. I always associate that thing with IBMs. They're often a red button. I could call it something, but I'm going to get flagged off the site if I say what I heard people talk about that button. Yeah, certainly not a young machine, put it that way. This is old. It's very heavy. Noticing the keyboard's still there, unlike a lot of the modern rubbish you see today. Underneath here, we'll take a look at the serial number, because you probably say, oh, well, we need to see that. Looking at that there probably unlatches the era that this comes from. Notice there it says made in Japan. My God, if only we could go back to that. This old laptop reminds us of the days when we were able to basically pull things on and off devices like this. Very unlike Apple these days. That's the battery there. I can't do it single-handedly, but you're able to pull the battery off. I think this is a compact disc player. I'll see if I can get that off. Okay, yeah. So there's a compact disc player. Man, you know, it's a bit of a bygone thought being able to basically pull things on and off a laptop without dropping it there, but I will put it back together. Someone may see this and want it for a collection of their computer stuff. To me, it's just, you know, a trip back in time, back to when things were far different. I know there's a lot of tech YouTubers and they always say we need to go back to something like that, something that you can get into repair and not basically throw away if one thing goes wrong. Lovely rubbish pile. It's all been placed neatly on top of a bed. A lot of toys here. Some of the toys have had better days, and I think when busted toys are busted, they need to go to the rubbish. Looks like old McDonald's farm has met up with Hot Wheels there, although it looks like a style of generic set. I'm not quite sure whether that's real or not. I think it's generic. Lots of bits and bobs here, all sorts of different things. Man, I just keep seeing this style of stuff in the rubbish pile, that sort of woven stuff there. I call it dust collecting stuff. I don't know, you start to see one bit of it, then you see heaps. Some more toys here. As I keep saying, we lost our charity shop many years ago now. I have very fond memories of that charity shop. They helped me out a lot. And I see things like this in the rubbish pile, and things like this would be reused and repurposed. This is now just landfill, okay? More toys here. Okay, looks like another generic style. I don't think that's Hot Wheels, but there's something here which I sort of semi-laugh at. That's when I start to see this sort of influencer, I call it influencer type stuff. Okay, it's got a tripod bottom on it. It held your iPhone or whatever up there with hundreds of motorbikes passing me by. Yeah, it's a bit of a sign of the times, and I think I'm going to see a lot more of that style of rubbish out in the rubbish piles. I'm sure of it. Sometimes I see a rubbish pile and I just like the way it looks and the way it's been set up. It's just a beautiful balance of different things going on there. I noticed the office chairs have come back to the rubbish piles for the last couple of years without saying C, B and P. You would rarely ever see an office chair out on the rubbish pile, but hey, it looks like we're swung back the other way. Oh yes, we live in a beautiful graffiti-free suburb. It's funny, so ever since we had our lockdowns, blah, 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 that's when the graffiti really kicked in. And it looks like something's happened here. Someone's lost control of something and gone straight through a fence there. I dare say they were very lucky they didn't hit this pole here. This is something to do with the sewage system. It's a great big tall pole. Okay, that would be substantial to hit, but they've made a nice mess of the fence. Lovely. Just looking the other way, and if you come off the road here, well, of course, you're going to go into a fence. And when I take a look at the wreckage here, the wreckage talks to you, doesn't it? So who's gone into the fence? I dare say this is a massive clue. Looks like a rearview mirror from a Harley Davidson motorcycle. I love that emblem there, very, very cool. And maybe of something a bit more modern, possibly. I dare say the bike fanatics are going to tell me more about this piece here. I like to come back to the rubbish piles a few days after I've initially seen them, and I think what's missing here, there was like a plush emoji thing. It was a horrible looking thing. I never really made much focus of it, but I remember looking at the toys here and I thought to myself, well, the toys in here are pretty good. There's nothing wrong with some of these toys, and they're starting to be a little bit rain affected. We've had a bit of rain. I'm semi-surprised that this is still here. I thought someone would have repurposed that, flogged it online or flogged it whatever, but sadly no, it's still here. But for the fact that that plush emoji thing's gone from here, it doesn't make any sense. Do you remember this rubbish pile? It has evolved and de-evolved in a strange way. Do you see what's missing here? Well, the big obvious thing that's missing, it was that LCD screen, flat screen TV that was laying there. I mentioned the YouTuber Aussie 50 when I see those things. It's gone. I think it's had items added to it. Certainly stuff here has been added, but that little terrarium plant thing seems to have totally gone missing. I have had a look underneath here. It's gone missing, but there are a few other things here which have magically appeared, but I'm sort of semi not surprised. This is a few days along from when I was last here, and those whippersnippers, especially that DeWalt, which looks fairly new, is still here. So I'd love to know what's going on with that DeWalt whippersnipper, battery powered, 54 volt brushless. Man, it's just so strange to see something basically brand new thrown out. This will be an insert shot in relation to that DeWalt line trimmer I found on the side of the road. I'm at my local big hardware store, DeWalt brushless, 54 volt. I can't pull this unit down off the rack. It's being tied to the rack. That's what they do these days. That's the info area there about this line trimmer. I'm thinking this is very, very similar. And I saw this here. I mean, I got a bit of a surprise. I mean, I noticed it because I found that one which was thrown out, which looked brand new. And if I just go up slowly here, you'll see what this unit looks like. Okay, getting up to the head, right up there, and you can see that it is tied off. I can't pull this unit down, which annoys me, but that's the way it works now. But it was when I had a look at the price ticket, I think, yeah, baby, basically $600. Amazing. But why was that one thrown out on the side of the road? This could be the greatest battery powered line trimmer in the world. I noticed on the box here, and this is the stock in the store, looking at the type of battery it's got, it looks like it might have dual voltage. That's what it's reading to me, but hey, I might be totally wrong. If you've got one of these DeWalt line trimmers, wow, I'd love to hear what you're saying about them. Just so strange to see something that looks brand new thrown out on the side of the road. Well, a couple of mega piles here. I've just seen people rattling through it, which is what you often see. And we'll have a very, very quick look over these. I see Ibanez Performance Guitar. I'm just going to see what country this is made in. If it's something made in China, I'm not going to be interested. Let's take a look inside there. Okay, Ibanez Performance. I can see model number, serial number, and I can see Korea there. But I'll need someone who knows guitars to tell me more about this. Body wise, it's in pretty good nick. Often if guitars are knocked around, you'll see a lot of knocking on the edges and things. You'd often see wear marks as well if it's been played a lot. I can see some scuffing here where when it's being played, the plectrum will come down here and hit this area here. And the other place to look for wear and tear on a musical instrument like a guitar is up on the fretboards at the frets. And if the metal here that the strings work against to give you your note, if it's been worn down, and this seems to be in fairly good nick, that's a sign that it's been played a lot. But I think this musical instrument here hasn't done that much work. It looks to be in fairly good condition. The other thing to look out for is a bow in the neck, and I tell you what, it looks pretty straight as well. Let me just turn around. We haven't looked at the back of this. I might tell you a bit more what's going on. No, it looks pretty darn clean. I don't think this guitar has done very much playing at all. Well, hopefully someone will see value in that. I will leave this here, and it's just a shame to see something in this condition out in the rubbish pile. Now this is quite a tower of power when it comes to all sorts of brick and brack and stuff. Man, the charity shop would go mental selling off all this stuff, but hey, it's getting thrown out and sent to landfill. I can see a tripod here. It's missing the foot section that you connect to your camera, which clips into this section here, so in a sense I dare say it's worthless. I think it's an El Cheapo tripod. I sort of know my tripods. All sorts of things here. A little bit of artwork, all sorts of things, looks like snake charmers things. My God, things that people have. I think this is a bowls bag, as in lawn bowls. Hope I'm correct there. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you'll tell me more about that. It says 4 on it, whatever that means. I can see some fishing rods here. Some people like to collect fishing rods because they use the components of the broken fishing rods to make more fishing rods. And I can see some art here. I like to always take a look at the art. Okay, and there's this here as well. Let's see what that one says. And in turning that sign around, it's a nice positive thought for someone to come and find something magical in this rubbish pile. But thinking of magical things, which aren't magical but I find lots of, look what's sneaking around the corner here. Frippin' hell. You know, if only I got paid $1 for every time I found one of these pieces of rubbish. Let's take a look at the date thing wherever it is. Easy Home 2000 watt bagless, blah blah blah, 1 year warranty, made in China. Stop buying this rubbish, it's going to end up killing us. How many times have I seen something like this on the rubbish pile? Countless times. They are never used very much and they're just rubbish, and they end up just becoming landfill. It's got to stop. That guitar didn't last long. The gentleman in the white van there just picked it up and is on the runner. It's amazing how much brand new stuff you see getting thrown out, and maybe an indictment of our society, the throwaway nature we have these days. These are Anko stuff you buy from Kmart in Australia. Food, blah blah. I can't see the lid for these, or maybe if I dig around I'll see the lids, but they look basically unused. Next to this is this here. Looks like something to stack shoes up with. Maybe you know what that is. There's quite a few of them. If I move that there, okay, there's a whole stack of those there. But yeah, we live in a really sad throwaway society. Okay, this rubbish pile has just evolved. It wasn't here in the morning, it's here later in the day. I've pulled aside the fishing rod stuff. A person who I collect fishing rod stuff for finds lots of Dysons for me. There's some exercise boogie here, some scooters. Looks like children live in this house. And I've seen this here, it's not Nerf, so it's no good, it's X-Shot. Okay, yeah, so I don't know whether that's a classic thing. Yeah, I often see lots of these styles of toys on the rubbish piles. There's also this here. Looks like part of it's missing. Yeah, I don't know much about that. I can see some bikes down below. And that's the other thing, you know, I often see so many good bikes thrown out. And again, it's an indictment of the way we live now. Okay, there's something on top of this box that's making me very excited. There's something that I'm starting to see a few more of now. This is a Dyson stick vac. It's from the earlier version of these. I can tell by the way this setup here is done. If I look on this side, we might see a number. Okay, DC35 Animal. So back in the day, this wouldn't have been a cheapie. Let's see if it still works. Ah, yes. Let's take a look at the other end here, which is the brush end. I mean, the thing is that these styles of Dysons have got so much better versus when this came out. Okay, looking at that there, it looks like it's in pretty good nick actually. I've seen these a lot worse and worn down, mind you. We don't know whether this is the first or second one of the rollers that this one's had. You can often tell with these how much scuffing and buffing it's done in this ball area here. So I dare say this has done a fair bit of work. And the trick with these earlier ones was to try to keep this area clean. They often got clogged up quite easily. You had to really keep maintenance on this part here. I've actually done a video where I tied it up, one I found in the rubbish pile. But yeah, getting back to this, man, that is a frippin' clanger of wonder. Yeah. How could you not be super excited, hey? Just frippin' love it. Okay, an interesting pile of rubbish. I can see what looks like a little Tykes vehicle there. They're fantastic. Often picked up by other people and reused. That little Tykes has got like a fireman's theme to it. It's the first time I've seen one like that, but it's what's next to this that caught my eye, in particular because of the colour and also because of the brand that I see there. I associate Karcher with quality items. Maybe you can have your say on that. And I'm just trying to get my head around this. I think it's quite an elaborate mop. I do notice it's got this attachment here on the ground as well. And I think if I pick up the Karcher Mopperoonie, whatever, it goes in something like that. So it seems to be a nice clean fit like that. Okay. So there, so that was like the sudsy sort of wash out the bottom of the brush thing. God, now if I can get it off would be nice. Nothing ever happens to plan, but at least I've proven that those two things are mated together. I've got to be a bit careful with this because I did notice on this thing here, dun, 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 nice spider's nest in there. Yeah, it's sort of like the old Welcome to Australia. So we'll put the spider nest over there and we'll have a bit of a closer looker at what's going on here. I've got a frippin' yapping dog going on in the house. It's very alerted that I'm here. Maybe that's a good thing. I notice it's got things like this. It looks like you could paint your walls with this. They come off like that. Okay. First time I've seen one of these out in the rubbish pile. That's what sort of made me stop and look. Yeah, I can only assume this is a very elaborate type of mopping device. It is powered in the sense I can see it did have a power cord at one point. Yeah, and I'm just trying to find a thing here that tells me something about the date. That frippin' yapping dog yapping all the time. It had me a bit perplexed actually, and I thought, well, there's nothing that's showing on the outside here. That's where the power cable wraps around up that area there. And it wasn't until I investigated this bit here, there's something underneath there. Okay, yeah, Karcher blah 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 blah, and all sorts of serial numbers and things there. I can see made in Lithuania. Curious. Hoping I've got viewers from Lithuania. Hello, if you're from Lithuania, this was made in your country. I can only assume this operates to be a suction thing here, like a vacuum thing that will draw up the fluid going on in the mop area, and it's collecting into this. I hope I'm correct there, because I noticed this here goes up, and basically the fluid would go one way and the air would go the other. God, if I'm wrong, you'll be screaming at me, but it's something unusual to see a very elaborate, I'm calling this a very, very elaborate style of mop made by Karcher, which is also a bit unusual to see Karcher brand out on the rubbish piles. Next to a bus stop we find quite a curious pile of rubbish, and there's one thing here that really starts to irk me, and it's these crappy plastic trolleys like this. There was a supermarket chain that I won't name, maybe there's a clue there, that had the crap toys like this, and I mean they were absolute crap. And it was at a time when we were told to stop using plastics, to, you know, not have free plastic bags anymore, blah blah blah, yet this is the sort of rubbish that they were serving up as, well, part of the whole, you know, enticement to come and shop with us and attract the kids and have all sorts of collectibles that were also plastic. And I just see this and it just enrages me. In fact, I did a video that I never uploaded onto YouTube of me finding a whole number of these as I just walked around the suburb, and as I found each one I was getting angrier and angrier. Okay, it's another one of these Coles toys that get produced while they're doing their ridiculous marketing nearly used the word scam there, you know, to basically, look, I'll just stop saying what I'm saying. You can see what's on the rubbish pile there. Nothing but rubbish toy, and I actually get pleasure from doing that as well. Okay, dusted. This could be an earlier model. It looks a bit sun affected, but yet it's another one of these rubbish plastic toys, Coles inspired, because they had this thing called Little Shop Minis, and they flog rubbish like that when those campaigns are on. Coles, it's got to stop, and you got to trust me on this. This is nothing but absolute rubbish. A lot of the time I've seen these, they're broken, and that's what you're dealing with. Complete and utter trash. So many mixed messages from the wonderful supermarket chains. Man, it brings back so many very, very strange memories. Let me just push this back in here gently. Oops, sorry, I just broke that. Quite an interesting pile of rubbish here. Obviously a lot of children's things going on here. And there's something here that caught my eye, and it's something that I've seen once before in the rubbish piles. And it's that cat ride on, what would you call it, bulldozer sort of thing. It's a bit pinned in here, but I can see it's heavily spider infested because we're in Australia. That would be the charger doodah for it there. I just feel like hopping on one of these and giving it a go. And if I look at the bucket area here, it's just infested with spiders. Look at that there. Welcome to Australia. But yeah, that's the second time, I like doing it like that, I've seen something like that on the rubbish piles. Okay, quite a large pile of rubbish. It's spread out a fair bit, but there's something here and it's caught my eye, and it's something I've already spoken about. When I see this really, oh man, that scared the crap out of me then. Wow. Wow, I was looking down through, man, I'm just gonna get my breath back, looking down through camera, and it got me. Yeah, again, it's one of these. Yeah, I just get enraged when I see these. It was, like I said, there was one year where I saw a whole stack of these appearing. Yeah, we're told by the supermarkets, don't use plastic, but that's what's given out as a toy to play with. Astonishing, hey? I'm going to be a bit naughty here. I'm going to set this up and scare someone, because other people are going to come along to the rubbish pile. If I do that, if I do that, I get a nice scare when I lift this up. Yeah. I'm just near the local scout hall, and we'll see what sort of rubbish they're throwing out. Maybe you'll get some memories of being in scouts. It looks like the scouts like to play with fire. So hey, yeah, maybe I should have been in the scouts. I was in the Cubs in Australia, but I never really connected, would be the best way of saying it, because I was very poor at ever doing the challenges, like tying knots and things like that. I could light lots of fires, but that didn't really ever give you a badge. But that's what the local scout group have been throwing out. Yeah, obviously they love their fires. A very interesting rubbish pile here. That lawnmower is interesting. We might come back to that very quickly, but when I see something that I rarely ever see in the rubbish pile, I take a look, and it's this here. It's a telescope. I don't think it's that ritzy in price. I think it's missing its lens thing. The focus part that you need here is missing. It's got quite a substantial tripod. Maybe the value in this is grabbing the tripod. Yeah, if I see something a bit different, I'll come in and focus on it, no pun intended, because it's a telescope. Yeah, how many times? I mean, I've just had a chat to the owners about who own this, okay? And of course, it hasn't been used very much. Guess what? It gets blocked up. Yeah, we don't even need to see the thing underneath, do we? We understand what's going on here. I'm just going to waste my time showing you any more. You've just got to get away from this rubbish here. I sound like a broken record, but we've got to keep repeating that record because we need to learn. This is an interesting find here. It's a petrol lawnmower. It's not a spring chicken. I had a chat to the owners. Apparently it still works. It's just blowing some smoke. So if you could put some new rings in this, it'd be probably fine. Unusual brand to see here, Scott Bonner. I always think of Scott Bonner as a brand from a bit of a bygone era. Okay, we might just take a look at the blades on this lawnmower. Just very, very gently, just tilt it over. You can see it hasn't been used for a while by the leaves there, and I'll probably get bitten by a spider doing this too. Okay, I like to show you this because this has done a lot of work now. I don't know how many times it's had blades put onto this base plate here. There's lots of rusticles in here. Obviously not a spring chicken in any sense. Very unlike the times when I've had a look at those battery powered lawnmowers and whatnot. So yeah, I like to show you stuff when it's all been beaten up, it's all rusted, and it's had a good life. This is not a new lawnmower, and I think that's very important to point out. Sometimes I get it back onto its feet again. Ooh. The lawnmower that replaced this was another petrol lawnmower. Yes, the owner's quite wary of buying anything battery powered or electric. And we can take a look at the air filter here. Okay, obviously it needs a bit of a clean out. It shows that it has been used, which is very important to show. So yeah, Scott Bonner, quite an unusual find, but it's important to see when stuff has been used a fair bit as well. I think that's really important to point out. There's one of the people that collect the scrap metal. Looks like it's all steel. Got a ute load there and a trailer load. Yeah, just sort of wonder how much money they get for all that trash. Well, as usual, anything that is valuable metal-wise is gone. So all of the copper stuff from the back of this refrigerator has been taken away. That's a very common sight. But I also like to have a bit of art class when we're taking a look at the rubbish piles. And it looks like this would have been a set of murals that you put up on the wall. So maybe that was part one. Don't know if I can ever put this back together. Maybe that was part two. Really don't know. And maybe that was part three. Okay, I think I've sorted it out there. That's what that makes up there. Maybe something purchased in IKEA. It's the sort of thing that I think I saw in Frippen IKEA. There's my ugly shadow going through there. I will put all this back in the way that it was. I mean, a struggling artist would paint over this, and they've got, well, basically a nice canvas, haven't they? Oh, flipping hell, what the? What? It can't be. It says made in Australia. Oh, give me a frickin' break. Well, maybe that's why that mural was sucking me in. It's definitely not a scene from Australia. Well, nowhere where I've been. I'll put this back where it belongs, but yeah, as I may have been interrupted saying, a struggling artist would see that as some nice canvases if they came and painted them over. Okay, another pile of rubbish. Another vacuum cleaner. Cough, cough, cough. Oh my God. But I had a chat to the owners and they said, hey, we put out a whole bunch of doggy stuff. I was actually watching them put this stuff out. And because this suburb, sorry for the shadow through there, is so dog-centric, it's a very, very dog-centric place, a lot of this stuff is going to get picked up. And it's not often I've seen like a whole thing of doggy stuff. I think that's just stop dogs from eating too fast. Makes them eat a bit slow so they can't gulp their food. But man, it looks like there's food here. Wow, it's a whole kit and caboodle. There's this here, new in box. Wow, I'm just trying to work out. It's a nail trimmer. Whew, I'm just trying to work out what the hell that thing is. Okay, like an IQ test for dogs, I think, because you put doggy treats underneath that. And this is the thing that caught my eye. And it's a Nerf item, and it's a Nerf item where you put a ball in. And you could crank the ball in there and then you could fire it. And I always remember seeing these in pet stores. They're always a good price without saying overpriced. But that's quite a curious find in the rubbish piles and very unusual to see a dog-centric bin of stuff. It won't take long at all for all that doggy stuff to be picked up in the suburb where I live. I can see a bike over there that says free bike. We're going to take a look at that next, but I want to show you how good the telecommunication infrastructure that's called the NBN is in Australia. I'm showing you a pole here which is in the suburb where I live, which is called Barara. And as we go up here, we're going to marvel at how this system works. So there we are. There's a nice telecommunication connection area there. It's all taped up and I can see some ratty lines that are going nowhere. And looking closely there, you can just see how wondrous the NBN is in Australia. It's just beautiful. So yeah, this is like a $50 billion or $60 billion enterprise. It's just wondrous to look at. And if we keep crawling up the pole there, we get up to where the power lines are, which go to different parts of the suburb. I know when it's raining, I can tell because the internet falls apart, and it's because of connections like this is why it fails as soon as there's a bit of rain. There's a plover bird, or pair of them down the road there. They're going to probably try to get me. Let's take a look at this free bike. Okay, it's nice. It's got a free sign, but I see so many bikes out in the rubbish piles at rubbish collection time. Now, the way I'm going to gauge whether this is a good, bad, or indifferent bike is very simple. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to feel its weight. If it's nice and light, I'd say it's a good free bike. Frippen hell. That feels a bit weighty. So yeah, that's how I'm gauging that bike there. Yeah, it's free, but I would like it to be lighter. Okay, this is the doggy area again. This is now just 2 hours on with 3 fingers out. What do you think has been picked up here? I'm not surprised at all. This is very dog-centric suburb. I'm not going to tell you what's not here. I can barely remember myself, but yeah, a lot of the stuff that was in there has now vaporized. This is a rubbish pile that's developing. I've got here before the metal merchants have come here, and I said to the people putting the rubbish out, I like to look at retro stuff, try to find stuff that's not made in China. And I think I found something which is a classic example of the good old days. And it's National blender right here. It really is a clanger from a bygone era. And we take a look at this here. It's got buttons that look like this. It reminds me of that Vulcan heater in that style of buttons and the sounds. Wow. Just love the sounds of this machine. But when we take a look underneath this, without this rolling down the road and creating a scene, like I've done at other places, we'll start to understand the glory of what's going on here. It's a National brand blender, and we can see blah blah such and such volts and watts, and we can also most importantly see made in Japan, and that's way better than China. What you find in Australia after a certain period of time after the Second World War, there's a lot of made in Japan stuff, and this might be a classic example of it. I'm sort of thinking this is 70s era. I might be wrong there. But there was a free trade agreement set up between Japan and Australia. So the people that used to be our mortal enemies during World War II became one of our major suppliers. And I suppose that's the sort of thing that goes on with wars. You know, wars don't last forever, and mortal enemies become mortal friends. I like the blender a lot. It's called the Quickie Super 7. Wow, that's a strange name for a blender. I also notice on top here, which is an indictment of the times, it's got Japanese on this side and it's got English on the other. Yeah, so very much a sign of the times, and man, how things have changed so much. Made in Japan stuff, there was that time when a lot of it was, but these days it's not. I also notice here, it's one of those food mixing sticks. Look, there's billions of names for these things. This looks like an older one, going by the way the plastic has changed on this. And if I have a look on the end here, well, that's curious. It's made in Spain. So yes, obviously dealing with a lot of stuff here that's from a bit of a bygone era. Hey, there's nothing wrong with bygone era stuff, but it's always a reminder that there was a time when stuff was made in other places apart from China. Oh yeah, do you remember this rubbish pile? It has grown a bit, but there was 2 things here that I looked at. Do you recognize anything here? Well, the Icta whippersnipper has gone. That was laying here, and also that little amazing Australian made Vulcan heater. And where I last left it, it was only a few days back, was down here. Yes, it's gone as well. Miraculous, isn't it? What has turned up here, a couple of things caught my eye. The item here, I've often seen these in charity shops for all sorts of different prices. I think they're health balls. They're like well, I think they're Chinese. I might be totally wrong. It looks like the sun there. I don't know where we meant to put these health balls without saying something ultimately rude. Getting me into trouble. It looks like the moon there. So I can only assume it's like sun and moon health balls. What do the instructions say? Well, I was talking about health balls. Okay, yeah, I often used to see these in charity shops. I think people bought them when they went overseas on trips, and they came back with some balls. And guess where the balls end up? They end up on the rubbish piles. And there's also this here, and this is quite a curious thing. It's like a little candle flower, blah blah. And I saw this here. This caught my eye, and it's of course Lady Diana, Princess of Wales. Yeah, she was a miraculous person. Oh, really, honestly, honest to God, it's just so sad what happened to her. And it says that in there. Maybe you can pause the video and read that. I'm not going to try and read it to you because I'm not very good at reading. Yeah, an incredible person, still sadly missed. And yeah, it would have been a very different royal family, let's say, if she persisted on. The rubbish piles evolve and de-evolve. A lot of things get hopefully reused and repurposed. A lot of things go to scrap metal, but the bulk of the stuff ends up as landfill. Wonderful. Well, do you remember this rubbish pile? I think you do. It has evolved a little bit, but the very, very elaborate carpet shampooer is still here. Very interesting to see no one has picked this up. Maybe that's very telling of what's going on with these machines. I do notice the electrical cable has been taken away. Maybe that was the big value in this item here. It looks like it's still got all of its bits and bobs. I did try to leave it intact when I looked at it the first time a few days back. Yeah, it's all still here. But for the fact it's still here and not picked up by someone might be very, very telling of what's going on with these styles of machines. I bet you not many of you out there saw that one coming. I really thought that was going to get picked up. Of course, I was curious to find out more about this carpet shampooing machine. I went to the product review website and boy oh boy have I found a bunny hole of consumers who have been, number one, ripped off, and number two, lied to at the point of sale. This is a $1,000 machine which has so many issues going on, it's not even funny. This is definitely worth a dedicated video just to look at what people said about their experience with this machine. And seeing the company name Godfrey's in so many negative reviews is very telling for why this retailer collapsed. If they're pushing totally overpriced rubbish like this, goodbye and good riddance. This is an interesting part of the suburb. It's where there's a lot of big Christmas decorations and light shows up. This is one of the houses that has one of the major ones. And it's very interesting to see what they throw out as rubbish. And of course, we see a lot of the older decorations or lighting things they did for Christmas. Seems to be a fair bit there. And I noticed these fans here, and I was almost going to make a point that in summertime, because this is the summertime cleanup, you rarely see fans being thrown out. I can see there's that style of fan there, which I think are terrible. And of course, there's another one over there. But I remember back on the last winter cleanup, I didn't make a dedicated video of what was going on, but I had to go out and get shots of fans on rubbish piles to relate to another video. And it just reminded me that in wintertime, you see so many those cheap and nasty fans getting thrown out. Sometimes you'd find stuff from a bygone era, which was made in another country apart from China. But it's a reminder that in summertime, you tend not to see the fans thrown out. But in wintertime, you'll see a flurry of them. Lots of fans being thrown out in the winter curbside cleanup. So I'm still at that Christmas decorations house, which has a lot of lights thrown out. I noticed one of these here. It's one of these Breville sandwich makers, toaster blah blahs. I like these units. We've been through a couple of our house. What we find is the elements in these go. And I'm pretty sure it's something which is made in China. I won't focus on this too long. There we go there, Breville blah blah blah, made in China. I noticed the copper thieves haven't got onto this unit here yet, so I would say this is a fairly freshly developed rubbish pile. Sorry for any flare that happened there. And I also notice here there is a microwave oven, and the upside down sign there tells me, guess where it's made? Made in China. So yeah, a lot of the stuff on that rubbish pile there, a lot of that stuff is made in China, and I've always said China always wins. And this decorations on this house is just mind-blowing. It's of course, seeing it during the day, you don't get the full effect. Lots of blow-ups, blah blah Christmas things here, but they've always got a lot of really nice setups. And maybe in just this here, this sort of gate section that you can walk through, where there's a light festival of things going on, you can just see how awesome this display is. I see this just up the road from that mega house. This is very Australian seeing this. Remember, it's summertime here when we have Christmas. It's like a car being pulled along by a kangaroo, a couple of joeys, and there's an echidna there as well. In fact, there's a couple of echidnas. Notice the scrap metal merchants have just turned up to that pile where I looked at the Breville and all the rest of that blah blah. So yeah, it doesn't take long before the scrappies get what they want. This is the very well-off part of the suburb. It goes down into a valley here. It's surrounded by bush. I don't think I'd like to be here when there's a fire. There's only one road in and one road out, and you're looking at it right there. But what I saw on the side of the road here is what got me very, very excited. I can read here, Dyson Kinetic Big Ball Animal. I was trying to find a DC number on this. I think it's something from a latter time, because it's got stacked up cones here and lots of those dust dividing cones in a sense. Man, there's lots of them on this one. But I think I know what's killed this. I notice it's missing its wheels. There'd be those covers here, which are basically turned into the ball. That's missing. And I notice there's a lot of very, very fine dust on this Dyson. So I think it's had a bit of dust ingestion into the motor. and I think that would have killed it. I'm absolutely certain on that, especially when I take a look at the exhaust area. It's got very fine dust there. That's not a good look. The dust on this machine, to me, it's feeling like plaster. It's a little bit abrasive. And what tends to kill Dysons is, I know after we've had big rainstorms here, like a couple of years back, we had a lot of rain, a lot of flooding in homes after the hailstorm, of course. And this area here, if you ever suck up water in a Dyson like this, it's going to clog up this area up here. You've got to keep them away from water, the ones which aren't designed to be in water. I'm not sure if Mr. Dyson has a wet and dry vacuum system. I know there's head attachments for Dysons, but I'm not sure if it's a proper Dyson attachment that does that. And just thinking of attachments, I noticed these here. These look basically like brand spanking new. I don't know what this does. I haven't got one of these. Okay, so if I don't know what it does, I'm not going to tell you what it does. And I also noticed one here. To me, that's a very common Dyson piece. That one there. So maybe the glory in all this is finding those two wondrous attachments. So doing a mini Sherlock Holmes, I'd say someone's tried to come in and fix this. I'd say the dust has killed it. Dysons have got really good hoses. That's what I've always noticed. And I noticed the attachment here is a little bit different from what I've seen in other Dysons. They're always evolving. Well, hopefully always evolving and never de-evolving. I felt a bit lost not finding a DC number. I did take a look underneath this machine. I was just trying to find like a number or something. It's had a lot of scuffing and stuff, so it's had a life in a sense. We would like to see things that have had a life. Maybe if I take off this dust collection area, we might find, okay, well, evidence of more dust. When I see this, that's not a good sign. Yeah, so I'd say the dust has gone into the motor, and let's see what this says here. Well, it's sort of not telling me what I want to see, but I can see, looks like, is it 12/02? What does that mean? Underneath the serial number there's quite an ominous read. Do not use on rubble, plaster or ash. Dun, dun, dun. So in reading that warning there, I think I've worked out the fate of this Dyson vacuum cleaner. Very interesting. Yes, another quite interesting looking pile of rubbish, and you're probably saying, Leo, what's so special about that pile of rubbish? Well, it's when we take a look and sneak around the back of it, we'll see the Glory Apartments, SpongeBob SquarePants' house there. Dun da da da! It's the Dyson, yay! I'm going to have to untangle the Dyson out of here. It's got other stuff thrown on top, but let me grab this main part first. It looks like it's been through a bit of the wars, but hey, I love anything Dyson. Busted up or in good nick. Okay, it's a Dyson DC29. This is from a bygone era. This machine looks like it's done a fair bit of work. You can do a bit of a read there if you want to. I think I've picked one of these up before. Radiax Cyclone Technology, blah, blah, there. It's got a lot of dirt and stuff on there. I think it's been laying around and not used for a while. I can see the dust collection area has got its last load of dust in there. I often see that with Dysons. And the thing that I couldn't find was the attachment, the end attachment to this hose part here. So it goes down to basically nothing. But nevertheless, it's another Dyson for my Dyson collection. I'm always going to treasure the Dysons that I find, and crikeys, I've got a lot now. Do you remember this pile of rubbish? I was here 2 days ago. Can you see what's missing? There was a telescope that was there. The crummy vacuum cleaner is still here. And the Scott Bonner lawnmower has vaporized. And the lawnmower is not hiding behind the kiddie pool here. I know you want it to be here, but it's gone. Another pile of rubbish. Looks like a couple of computer chairs, but hey, they're back in vogue. But there's something here that caught my eye in particular because of its color. It's a toy. It's a car racing toy, and it's one that, well, I've bought this. I've never featured it on my YouTube channel because of the way YouTube's bent now, but maybe now I can take a look at it. Okay, it's a Hot Wheels slot racing car toy. I can see it's already had trouble. It's had leaking batteries here, so this toy would be destroyed. And I did look inside. There are components missing. There's a bit of, I'll call it dressing, that would keep the cars on track. It's gone. I can't see the cars here. I can't see the controllers either, but you get a gist of what's going on here. I actually thought it was quite an interesting toy, And maybe the way to play with this and make it funky was to have batteries that were a little bit zapped out. It seemed to be a more stable toy once the batteries had run down a bit. You know, back in the day I would have reviewed this toy. I may have given it some pretty good marks, but man, these days on YouTube, you dare not go there, hey? Like a good boy, I will put that back where I found it. Okay, a small pile of rubbish, and this caught my eye. I don't think it's been on the market that long. It's Fortnite blaster. Sort of sad to see something relatively new put out in the rubbish pile. So it's even got its instruction. My God, I don't even know if this ever got used. Would have been a cheesy edit there. I'm pretty sure this is the instructions for this one here. Or should I say constructions, if you've known me long enough on YouTube. I used to mash words together and whatnot. Yeah, it's talking about probably reloading assembly, blah, blah. Astonishing to see this Fortnite branded Nerf deal out in the rubbish piles. Amazing. Oh yeah, do you see what I see? I see it, but can you? Oh yeah, baby, it's a Dyson. It's one of the earlier models. It's a DC07 classic. I can see it's got its last pickup of dust in there. Oh, this is a beautiful machine. I love getting these earlier Dysons. It's also got its tool here. I'd say it's only just been put out. I didn't see this here yesterday. It's still got its power lead. Very interesting. Frippin' Dyson, absolute classic. Now, a problem for me is I'm a fair way from home. I've got to get this girl home. And what I've found other times when I've grabbed Dysons is they've got really good wheels and they roll along the ground, especially the ball models. This isn't a ball model, this is before they put balls on everything, but they tend to walk along the ground really well. This girl's coming home. Yeah, baby, yeah. Coming home with daddy. Oh yeah. I'll get a real special shot in here. This is a classic. That there's absolute rubbish. Sorry, Mr. Hoover, you did have your chance with Dyson and you blew it. I told you they wheel along the ground really well. I'd never lie to you, would I? Walking this Dyson home has me going past just about everyone in the suburb going to work. I just say a lot of people will say, oh, that's what that loony does, collects Dysons. Quite an interesting pile of rubbish, something on there really triggering me, but I can see an Aldi toy here. Aldi, good different. You can get branded by Aldi while you're playing. I can see some Hot Wheels here. Hot Wheels stuff is something which is fairly common. What's that? There's some climbing tower thing, battery operated climbing thing. Yeah, I see a lot of Hot Wheels, but oh man, I can't stand finding these. I'm not sure whether I'm ever going to put up the video where I went mental, where I kept finding these on the rubbish pile. I actually said a few things in that video I shouldn't have said. That triggers me big time. Okay, big time seeing that. And what's next to that absolute rubbish plastic shopping trolley toy is, looks like the leftovers of some fans. I did a fanboy video because people cried about me wanting to look at fans, and the video just bombed. It got ignored. But hey, I sort of semi-expected that to happen, so I wouldn't even be worried about doing another fan video for the fanboys, because the fanboys say one thing and they don't follow up on what they say. This fan here looks like it was quite an elaborate model. It may have been one of those weird water injected ones where it had water coming out. Or am I just totally wrong there? I'm just thinking maybe a mister or something on this. Okay, I could get heavily involved in this, but the fanboys aren't, well, not worthy as far as I'm concerned. Sorry to say it like that, fanboys, but you failed me. Yeah, some sort of water thing going on there. Let's quickly look at this. Target indoor misting fan, made in China, equals landfill. So yes, it's a misting fan. You would have put water in here, it would have misted up. It would have been lovely and cool when it worked, maybe. Or maybe it was just rubbish, that's why it's out here. And it would have come out through the misting area there. We can dream, can't we? We can dream, but guess what? The dream becomes a reality. Don't worry, things fly away. Always put them in place. Well, that there looks pretty boring, but if I swing the camera this way, my crocky Charlies, it looks like a Lightning McQueen. It looks frippin' awesome. This is a wonderful find. It has been customized, and I like that because it shows that it's had some Lightning McQueen love. I can see up here it says Power Wheels by Fisher Price, so I'm hoping this is the legit Lightning McQueen. Looking up this side, it's almost like it's been turned into a demolition derby Lightning McQueen. That's what I'm thinking. The way the wheels are coloured, the way things have been taped over, I like this a lot. Someone's had a lot of fun customizing this Lightning McQueen. It's got the moustache on the front. It's got the eyes which have been painted as well. Things like that sprayed over. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's heavily sun faded. It's been in the sun a lot. It gets a bit chalky, the plastic, when it's been sun affected. I can see more tape up here, just getting into the driver's seat area and the steering wheel. If I just grab the back of McQueen here, maybe this is bringing back some nice memories. Looks like it had engine sounds that could talk. It's not doing that for me now. And it's got a control over here. It looks like it's forward. Turtle speed, is it? It's fast, slow, and reverse, I hope. Just looking over the top of Lightning McQueen here, and I'll just get to the back, which has also been customized. So if I do that and I do that, we get to see, yes, it's had custom treatments on every side. I certainly know there were knockoff versions of a McQueen like this. I'm pretty sure this is legit. Let's take a look underneath, because that might tell us more about what's going on here. Nice and gently, of course. It's nice and simple in design underneath, and I can see by what's going on here, this has had a lot of play, especially when I take a look at the wheels. This, of course, is one of the front wheels. There's a lot of scuffing going on in that wheel there. And this is the other one here. It's the same. It's showing like it's had a lot of wear and tear. This is a great thing to see. I love stuff which has been beaten up. Had a lot of fun with this. This is one of the rear wheels. I can see it's starting to fall apart. Okay, so that's of course connected to the motor. That's what you can hear whirring away there, but there's a lot of wear and tear there. And this is the final wheel to look at. And again, everything has the signs of lots of McQueen love. I was hoping to find some licensing info on this McQueen. Usually it's fairly prominent on something like this. I can see a number in the plastic there. Maybe that means something, or maybe it doesn't. One thing that's really surprised me, it's relatively spider free. Normally if something like this is left outside in Australia, crikeys, it just becomes a nest for all sorts of spideys. Let me just get this back on its wheels gently, of course. That's what the other side has been custom to, and I keep thinking Demolition Derby McQueen. I think that's a fantastic idea. Taped up, it's been sprayed up as well. Looks like number 11 with a spray mark. And by turning it over, as I did when I was looking underneath, I noticed that the hood here, or we call a bonnet in Australia, I've got to be Americanized because most of my viewers are from the USA, I find this here. So maybe this is going to have some information for me. Right at the front of McQueen is where the battery used to be. That's the connections that went to the battery. If I look up here, nice little bit of detail. It's like a mold of a V8 engine. It's like the rocker covers there and the air filter. It may have been licensing info there or warning or something, but I also noticed there is a fire warning sticker there. Warning, prevent fire. So the fact that it has a warning sticker there is saying to me it's the real deal. You wouldn't see that sort of sticker on the knockoff stuff. I'll just close this down nice and gently. Gotta look after McQueen. And just on warning stickers, I noticed now I can see the other side of the driving area. There's another warning sticker in there. So yes, it's saying to me it's the real deal. A really interesting find in the rubbish piles. I just love the fact it's been customized, and whoever was playing with this when they were a little bit younger, they've had a stack of fun. That's very obvious. Another pile of rubbish that looks pretty boring until you get to this end of it. My crikey Charlies, it's another Dyson. I think this is a DC25. Let me look here. Yep, I can see it there, DC25. This Dyson looks like it's done a fair bit of work. I can tell that by scuff marks and things on there. I can see more scuff marks up here. Mr. Dyson loved to put balls in his design. He also brought to vacuum cleaning the idea of a see-through dust collection area. A lot of people don't know that. It was his idea to have it that you can see the dust that you collected. That's the earlier version of the cones that do all the magic in a sense. It's got its tools still on this Dyson here. In fact, that's quite nice. Often the ones on the rubbish piles are devoid of their tools. And it's one of these cleaners that if I press the wrong or right button here, it all comes apart and this hose comes out and starts to play as well, but I've never been into that style of his cleaners. It's got this on top, and I've never really understood their style. I don't know, that pulls out. Yeah, and if you look at the bottom when I do that, it does this, if I can magically like that. So when it pulls up, it seals up here, so obviously does more thucking. On the side of this vacuum, it does explain that feature I tried to show in a very clumsy way. It's called a quick draw telescope reach, trademark, wand. This wouldn't have been a cheap vacuum cleaner back in the day, but the trick to buying Dysons is very simple. Don't buy the latest model, buy a model which is a couple of generations old. Like at the time of me making this video, a Dyson V8 is very inexpensive. And that's one that I would highly suggest is a good one to grab, although you may say a higher number than what I'm saying. I'm saying Dyson V8, you may say something different. Let's take a look at the wear and tear going on along here. Well, I make an assumption this is the original brush, but I can see lots of scuffing on the plastic here. When we take a closer look, maybe that's going to tell you more of what's going on here. What I've noticed with the Dysons I've had is the little brushes, that is these things here, tend to wear down, and they become a lot shorter than they are when you first purchase the cleaner. But yeah, I think when you look under here, it starts to tell a story of what this machine has done. Anyway, I'm always excited. Another DC25 for my incredibly large Dyson collection, and of course I'll be taking this one home with me. You beauty. Another pile of rubbish, and it's the stick vac that has caught my eye. I think I've seen one of these before. It's Kogan brand. Okay, let's have a look how much work this one has done. Let's see if it's working. It's working, but the problem with these is their suction is, well, it just sucks in the wrong sort of way. I'd say this machine hasn't done that much work, but the best way to tell that is by looking at this end here. Okay, so you can see what's going on there. I can see a bit of fluff and boogie there, but I'm not seeing any of the big scuff marks and stuff that happen when these machines get used a lot. I've come in for a really close look at this head area here. We're looking at the brush, how much of the brush has been pulled apart in its use. And I can actually see a big problem here. Can you see what's going on here and what's blocked? See all that dust in there, just at the tip of my finger? If you look in that gap, there's not a chance that dust will be able to be sucked up the wand there and go where it should be when it's clogged up there like that. Every time I look at one of these machines, it just amplifies the reason why I need to buy a Dyson only. What I will do is I'll unclip it here. It reminds me a lot of a Dyson when you see the way it all works in the buttons and everything. That there is reminiscent of Dyson, but that's doing nothing. On a Dyson, that's the cones that do all the dust separation. I'm going to do something very simple, and I've done this before when I found one of these, and if I turn it on, and if I put my fingers here, what would normally happen, you'd hear a big sucking sound. Let's listen. Can you maybe hear what I'm not hearing? If this is a Dyson, it'd be going like... But because this is a Kogan, guess what it's doing? Sweet FA. And I think if I do this, okay, it pulls apart, it says Kogan there, and it says Kogan made in China, blah, blah, there. I'm not going to look at that because I think we know what it's all going to read. And if we start to pull this apart, maybe I'll start to work out where it's getting clogged up. And I bet you there's a filter here which is clogged. It's a bit of a fiddle diddle to pull this apart. Okay, that's the back end of the filter. And if we pull this apart, we're going to start to see where the problem lies with these machines, and it's that there. That filter there is something that Dyson has been well away from for many, many years. And that's the reason why these machines here are frippin' useless. I did do the right thing. I'm putting this machine back together so I'm not wrecking as I'm looking, if that makes any sense. And of course I'll put the wand piece back on, because there might be someone else saying, you're looking at this rubbish pile stuff and you're criticising and you're wrecking as you go. Someone might want that for home. If I can get that back together, it'd be nice. Okay. My best advice is don't touch rubbish like this. This stuff here belongs, guess where? On the rubbish piles. And that was some of my best free advice. Okay, I was driving along and I saw this pile of rubbish, and there was something that caught my eye, something gold at the back there. Crikey's, I'm lucky I saw this, I can tell you. Look at this here. I've never seen anything like this. It's a Dyson. It's got a frippin' gold top. It looks absolutely frippin' awesome. It's a stowaway Dyson DC20. It's got the blah blah like I've seen written on another Dyson I've picked up in this video. I've never seen one with a gold top. Man, I'm gonna frippin' love this Dyson. I love the way they do all these different variations. Of course, it's a Dyson from a bygone era. I can see it's got bits and bobs here still attached. It looks like it's got a lot of its little tools still. It's got its sucking foot thing. Okay, so we've picked up a lot of hair and stuff there. So yeah, this is a very, very nice phone. I can see another tool here as well. I think it's got all of its tools, which is something that's often missing. But man, this gold top Dyson, it's like finding a real piece of gold to me. It's beautiful. I like finding strange things thrown out, and I think this is a nice strange one. It says tissues on the side of the box there. Well, guess what's inside these boxes? There's two boxes of them here. Dun, dun, dun. And there's box 1 and this is box 2. And I dug into these and I had a bit of a good look at this. That's what it says on the box. Blah, 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 blah. It says that underneath as well. And then of course I had to investigate to see what sort of contraband was in here. And this is what I found. Guess what? I found these tissues. So I've never ever found basically 2 boxes of lots of tissues on the rubbish pile. I just had a massive argument with a resident and they came running down at me saying I was breaching people's privacy and doing this illegal and doing that illegal. I said, good, call the police, call them now. Here's my phone, you can call them using my phone. They backed off a bit, but I tell you what, I don't know, you come across some really, really cranky people these days. It's just astonishing what they say to you. Anyway, it might be a sign for me to stop looking at stuff on the side of the road. That's the guts of a piano. And a bit further on is the rest of it. Sort of a bit sad when you see pianos end up like this. If you've ever seen a piano tuner come in and tune a piano, you'll understand the pianos actually come apart quite easily. They seem quite mysteriously complicated when you don't know how to pull them apart, but when you see someone who knows what they're doing, it's quite magical. And while I'm here, it might distress me if I do this. Making me feel better, I tell you. Oh, it's making me feel heaps better. But man, dealing with nutsos in the suburb, it's very stressful. Maybe that person's got a point. Maybe I am doing something illegal. It's been a long video, so we're going to cool off up the end here by just looking at the Christmas decorations that go on at the same time the summertime curbside cleanup happens. Remember, Christmas in Australia is during summertime, and it's a very, very foreign concept to a lot of people around the world. I've never experienced a cold climate or snowy Christmas time, and I think in a strange way, if I did experience that, my brain would really get rattled because I always associate Christmas with the heat of summer. In this video, I did take a look at some rubbish that was thrown out by one of the mega Christmas lights homes. And of course, amongst the rubbish there was old lights. And I remember this house when they first started to do Christmas lights. It started out as illuminated doves, looking like they were flying as they blinked on and off across the front of the house. As each year rolled on, this home acquired more and more lights, and more so in the last couple of years, inflatables. And inflatables at Christmas displays has really been on the rise. No pun intended there. From when I look at the displays that are done these days, let's say versus 10 or 15 years ago. It's tricky to video these light displays. Often there's people all around them, and I always find the sweet time when they look the best is when there's that final light in the day. It's right on dusk. It doesn't last for very long, so you have to work fairly fast. And I think there's a nice balance between the Christmas lights, which can be very bright and overpowering, and a little bit of light left in the sky. I just find when full darkness happens, it just becomes so overpowering with the Christmas lights, and you start to lose the depth of what you're looking at. This is a very, very nice display. There's a lot of stuff going on, and it's nice that there's a walk-through area, and you can see little finer details that go on. Big themes are great, but it's also the little things that I think make Christmas lights on homes really special. And just up the road from this mega house of Christmas lights, there was one house that used to put one sign up that just said Grinch in green. I do notice these days they have evolved, so yeah, even the Grinch can enjoy Christmas. Let me just very carefully put this somewhere else. Sugar. That's why I'm a nightmare.